You're listening to No Plot, Only Lore, a podcast about games and the tables we play them at. Your DMs tonight and every night are Josh and Chris. You can find us on all podcast platforms or check us out at noplotonlylore.com. If you like what you hear today, please rate and review the show and share it with everyone you've ever met.
Welcome back to No Plot Only Lore. This week brought to you by the Carcassonne expansion. We got some more bullshit.
I would say overall, with one, maybe two exceptions, they're all bullshit.
Maybe a bit of a weird admission for this deep in the podcast. I've never played Carcassonne.
Oh, really?
Yeah, never.
Carcassonne is like considered one of the four pillars of modern board gaming. And it's fine. It's pretty simple, pretty quick. I think the one expansion that I do own for it, okay, the version I bought has a mini expansion for the anniversary, but the true expansion I bought was called the Princess and the Dragon, which adds a dragon, a princess, and a fairy. I think the dragon is a super fun mechanism because when a dragon tile is drawn, then everyone at the board gets a turn moving the dragon around, and he can chase off villagers and things like that. So it just adds a fun element of that's not super serious.
If you buy that expansion on its lonesome, it costs like $33.
Maybe. I can't recall what I paid for. I think maybe $25-30, but I mean,
I think it's amazing that Carcassonne. Okay, so like having never played the game, I don't actually know what the draw on Carcassonne is, but like I think it is absolutely incredible that they're able to put out a Matchbox-sized expansion every once in a while, and people will rush to stores to pick them up.
So first of all, not Matchbox size. They are the Carcassonne expansions are pretty significant. Obviously the boxes are a little bit bigger than they need to be, but they're not like 12 tiles, right? They add a good amount of extra content.
What's that game that has all the tiny little ones then? Because there's a bunch of, like, I remember having to stock these and hating them, and I was sure it was Carcassonne.
I don't know. Like,
maybe was it Agricola? Does Agricola have a lot of like weird expansions?
Yeah. So Agricola, what they did is they would put out new decks for the game, which is just a small pile of cards, like the size of a deck of playing cards. So that would definitely do it.
Smaller than that. It was, I'm thinking like a couple of inches across and like square were the boxes that I was dealing with, and I'm sure they were Carcassonne.
No, because they all come in like I'm gonna say like a 6x10 box.
I'm looking up Carcassonne miniature expansions.
Okay. Because like the ones I bought have all been, I mean, not quite, but close to the size of the original box.
I don't know which game this was that annoyed me so.
Oh well.
There was definitely a game where I'm not a big fan of expansions kind of in general.
Okay.
I am usually the type of person who if I've spent $80 buying a board game, that better be all the board game I need.
Oh, boy howdy, could I not disagree more.
Considering that we started without knowing what the themes of today's pod were, we started this conversation with you scrolling through some crowdfunding site specific for board games, telling me all about the various expansions that you were going to think about funding. Clearly you have a very different take on this.
I mean, first of all, what I just funded this month for myself isn't even like an actual expansion. It's just upgrading the components of what I have, which is more or less the complete game. But now I will have 3D plastic terrain pieces for my pretend zoo. So you're welcome to laugh, but I will have a semi-realistic polar bear exhibit.
Did you ever play much of like the tactical war games from like the 1970s?
No, the Avalon Hill type ones.
Yeah, the ones where like all of your units are represented by little cardboard chits.
Yeah, no, I hate those games.
Yeah, so in my head, you've just upgraded your cardboard chits to little men's.
But yeah, I super duper
And
did. Because I get a bunch of little cardboard enclosures and kiosks and special exhibits, and now they're in plastic, and I can never mind. Anyways,
how many dollars did you spend on your little plastic elephant, Josh?
I'm not going to admit how much I spent on okay. Anyone who'd like can look up the Arc Nova 3 edition, they call it. It's edition, but with a number 3, on GameFound, and just look at the elephant pledge, because that's what I did.
Okay.
And yeah, that pledge costs more than all of the other components, like all of the base game plus expansions that I have purchased to date.
Okay.
But
so
it's worth it. No.
Okay, so my big question is,
Sure.
Why?
So if there is a game that I like, that I really get value out of and I enjoy playing a lot, I want to deluxify it as much as I can to get the premium experience. I already have a weakness for cool miniatures from various games. But things like metal coins or anything that can be like taken from like a little plastic square to like something, even some that just take like the materials, like the food or other components that you need in the game, and upgrade those to a 3D physical tactical thing, is really 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 good for me and my brain ghosts.
Okay.
So like a game like Everdell, that every version of it comes with like rubberized little berries and like little smooth flat plastic glass stones and little plastic pieces of wood, like that is perfect for me. But I've games like Scythe or Charterstone, I've gone and purchased the upgraded components for them, because that tactical little bit not only enhances my experience with the game, but actually helps me stay on the table and engaged in the game that's happening, even if it's just because I can fiddle with my little rubbery berries.
So it's very much a tactile thing.
Oh, 100%, yeah. There are some times where like the overall experience is just improved by having like a better component. So like I have purchased these things called iron clays, which are essentially really well made poker chips for board games. And I use those instead of basically everyone's stupid coin component, because if it's just some dumb little piece of cardboard, half the time it's small and flimsy and kind of hard to pick up, and it's not as fun as like riffling through a stack of poker chips that count your money.
Now, I think I remember you saying something about how you edge away from these things in role-playing games. Like the idea of having props for a role-playing game isn't really something that you jive with. Am I remembering that correctly?
Props no, miniatures yes.
Okay.
Like I had a extremely large D&D miniatures collection. I still have some significant pieces, but for the most part, first of all, I sold a huge chunk right after my ex left, and I used it to pay my mortgage for 2 months. And then
Okay.
the rest that I had, which is still a big usable chunk, is now with my buddy in his basement for use in our campaign.
Right.
So I love a miniature. I just, when people kind of go over the top with like, oh well, I'm handing out actual coins for my D&D game, like I'm just like, no, come on, like we can just track this on paper.
if Keith gives you like a small pouch full of like gold coins and trinkets, that is going to rile you more than anything.
Yeah, I just it drives me up the wall. I need things to be functional, but because so many board game components I have to interact with physically anyways. Like I rarely sit there and I'm like, oh well, I guess I will purchase my meal at the tavern and need to hand Keith a quarter, right? That's not a thing that happens in Dungeons and Dragons, right? But I do need to make purchases and move, game components around when I'm playing board games. So having a better board game component really does not just enhance the experience, but in a lot of ways improve and speed up the experience.
Do you remember Three Dragon Ante?
I am aware of it, but I never touched it.
I think it had coins.
Yep.
And the coins correlated very well to Canadian money. Like, you could just replace all of them with Canadian money and just play for real dollars.
Right. Let's just condone underage gambling on the pod.
Not underage, just, illegal and unsanctioned.
Yeah. Anyways.
All right.
So those are, I would not consider those component upgrades an expansion. I would consider that an enhancement to the game. Expansions to me are things that add new content, whether it's iterations on the existing game or whole new mechanisms.
Okay, so I guess my question was a little broader than just like why tactile bits. Like why expansions? Because to me, like,
sure,
maybe I'm just very old school, but it feels like cardboard DLC to me.
Okay.
Or like cardboard microtransactions.
Okay.
Which, like, thanks, but no.
Okay, so my counterpoint to that is that when a game launches with an expansion, I'm frustrated, for sure. That tells me you took content and held it aside.
First day DLC bad.
Yes.
Universally.
That being said, I sometimes see how, in the design process, they got to which parts can be sheared off. So the example that I want to use is a game that came out not long ago called Kelp. Kelp is a 2-player only game where one person is an octopus and one person is a shark, and they are in a kelp forest with the shark trying to find and eat the octopus, and the octopus obviously trying to avoid that. They had a day one expansion that added new mechanisms and kind of iterated on that. It was a very small expansion. It was like $20. Okay. But I can see how removing those interactions that are in the expansion and those mechanisms tightened up the focus of the game.
So the expansion actually made the game worse.
Not worse, just it added a level of complexity and decision making that I don't think was necessary to communicate the core idea of the original game.
Okay.
It's just like there are so many expansions come out that add a new mechanism that, for better or worse, often just add like analysis bloat to the game. This isn't one of them, but it definitely gives you like more options for ways to play the game. It's like okay, if you're playing chess,
famous first expansions,
and you just instead of having the standard setup, there's an expansion that was like, now you can take all of your rooks and swap them out for extra knights. It's not like significantly different. It's just a different decision to make on how you play the game.
Because so I don't own a lot of expansions. I don't own a lot of games that have expansions, but there is one that I am thinking of where like the game itself honestly felt incomplete until we got the expansion for it. It's a card game called Boss Monster.
Oh yeah, I've played it. Yep.
Yeah, and it's cute, but it's basically playing solitaire.
Yeah.
Right? Like there isn't a lot of interaction between your play and your opponent's play until an expansion later on added some like fuck you mechanics.
Okay. In the industry, we call them take that.
Sure. I'm not making board games, so I'm just going to continue to call them fuck you mechanics. But like that level of interaction, I felt was like actually missing from the game, and that's something that I see quite a bit in like base game releases.
Okay.
Is that you're essentially playing solitaire with a friend.
Sure.
And then later on, you'll see expansions come out that fix that. So like that's one reason that I've not always hated expansions, but there are a lot that don't do that.
Yeah. So what I would say is there are a lot of games that are essentially multiplayer solitaire. That their interaction with people is basically just coming down to like denial of opportunities or denial of resources. And that I think is fine.
Disagree. Hard disagree.
Why do you say that?
Because if I'm going to be playing a game with somebody else,
right,
the expression of skill in that game should include interaction with that player.
And I understand why you would think that, but that is not a universally held belief when it comes to board game design.
That is deeply silly, and all the board game designers are wrong.
So let me tell you why they're not wrong, because it's not
Okay.
about them being right and wrong. It is a methodology approach. The board game designers, in a lot of situations, view Euro games as essentially a large moving puzzle. That has been the classic sort of German, European, Italian influence design space for board games, for games that have heavy economics with a lot of systems, but the player interaction is a lot less confrontational. What you're describing is colloquially referred to as Ameritrash games, and
okay,
and I say that loving a lot of Ameritrash games. In fact, the ones that we were talking about before we went live are expansions for what would be considered Ameritrash games by a lot of people. I don't consider them that, but things that define that type of game are asymmetrical powers, high player conflict, and a lot more elements of output randomness or luck than the typical Euro game.
Okay.
So
I hate two of those things.
Yeah, I understand that. But just because a game doesn't have that type of direct conflict doesn't mean it doesn't have interaction if you're playing heads up. Even with a relatively, and this is something that gets leveled at games as a complaint, is that they are just multiplayer solitaire. One of my favorite like styles of game is something called worker placement. Most of those games don't have actions that I can choose that are direct attacks against people. However, I still need to be playing heads up and seeing what other people are doing, because where I place and the actions that I choose that block other people out of them are just as important as the actions that I choose to give me a benefit.
Yeah, but how do I kill your workers?
Hey, you can't.
I hate it.
These aren't war games. Like that's where you've got the differences that come in the styles of games, whether it's war games or Euro games or Ameritrash games, is the varying levels of conflict. We're not playing Warhammer or an old Avalon Hill style, simulation game, because what we want on the far other end of the spectrum is a pure economic simulator that I have 100% control over with no randomness, right?
So how do I entice your workers to come work for me?
Again, not going to happen. I mean, The way that you beat me is by hiring more workers faster and blocking out more spaces and getting more actions than me to do more things that you want to do. You're not necessarily like attacking my resources, but you're denying me resources actively. So
I guess that makes sense, but like, yeah, I don't know. I find that, and maybe it's just that like I want to have those interactions where like I can directly influence the
right.
things that my fellow players are doing. Like, not necessarily kill, not necessarily like maim, but like take one of their workers off the board.
Sure.
Right? Or move one of their workers somewhere they don't want it to be.
Yeah.
Right? Like having the ability to interact with my fellow players is one of the things that I'm looking for in gaming experiences, and when that isn't there, it feels like the game is incomplete to me.
Right. And I think that's what it comes back to, my original sort of assertion about what the intention of a board game is that, like, yes, there's the people who view it as sort of this weird social experiment, and the other people who view it purely as a puzzle to be solved. And the Euro games are puzzles for the most part. But with expansions, they change. So, I mean, I have a lot of expansions for different games, and they serve different functions. I have an assload of expansions for a game called Smash Up. And the way that Smash Up works is that you choose or are randomly given 2 different decks of like an archetype. So like pirates or ninjas or dinosaurs or robots, whatever. You shuffle those 2 decks together, and now that is your deck for playing a area control card game.
Okay.
The expansions just add more different decks. So they add Disney princesses, they add My Little Pony, they add kaiju, they add sumo wrestlers, right? Like just an infinite variety of weird things. And possibly not the brilliance of Smash Up is that it doesn't really add new mechanisms to the game, but each of those new decks plays in a unique way. So like,
so it's adding like new mechanics to the individual cards as opposed to adding like new mechanics to the game as a whole.
Yeah, so like pirates have this thing where there's various bases out there, and then you're adding units to those bases with different power levels. Once the whole base hits a certain power threshold, the base scores a certain number of points for whoever was in the lead, second, third there. Normally, once that base scores, all of the cards just go to the discard. Pirates have this thing where as a base is about to score, they all pick up and sail off to the next island.
Okay.
As opposed to like the quote unquote Disney princesses, who their whole thing is most of our deck is like action cards. We only actually have like 5 or 6 creatures, but they are insanely powerful creatures, each one individually. So it's high impact individual. Oh no, it's literal princesses. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, like that's one way to add, I think, replayability to a game is through expansions that iterate on what your game's already doing. So, again, Wingspan does this too, where they add, oh hey, here's a bunch of new birds. The game plays the same, but maybe these new bird cards have new ways of interacting with the board because they're from Asia or whatever.
Okay, so speaking of Wingspan, I do have a question on our notes.
Sure.
That I think is an interesting one.
Okay.
Is Wormspan an expansion?
No.
I know you can play it as a standalone game, but is it...
No.
Could it be considered an expansion for Wingspan?
No, and here's why not. Wormspan is what would be considered an iteration within a genre, or an iteration within a system. So Stegmaier and the folks at Stonemaier looked at the design of Wingspan and said, what if other things? So the idea exactly. The idea of you select an action, and that action has cascading strength depending on what you've done previously in the game. Wormspan is the closest to just straight Wingspan, but what they've done is they've played with what each individual action means and what the return on investment is for it. Wingspan tends to have this thing where as you invest into specific actions, you get much better at doing one specific thing. To the kind of detriment of your board, because you can get kind of locked in, right? Oh, I can make a bunch of food. I can't do anything with the food. I can lay a bunch of eggs. I can't do anything with those eggs, right? Wormspan
problems to have.
Wormspan plays with that idea, and going down these different action rows is less siloed. So the results that you get from a particular action will have a little bit of every action as you get better at them, right? So in Wormspan, it's far more common for me to be able to completely fill my board every game, whereas in Wingspan, I find it rarely happens, unless like I get lucky. And then Finspan takes the same ideas as Wormspan and simplifies it a little bit to make it faster and more approachable. So they all have different ways of approaching the basic idea of how the game mechanisms unfold.
Okay.
And you see that happen in other people's like certain designers will get into like not a rut, but like a little jag of like, hey, I really want to like iterate on what does a rondel actually mean, and what can I do with a rondel game. Doesn't make it an expansion when he puts out a game that's very, very similar. It's just an iteration. And I think the only reason that people conflate those two with the Span series is that the naming convention is the same.
Right. Okay. So to close this out, I have two very simple questions.
Okay.
Question number one. Mm-hmm. What is the worst expansion of all time?
The worst expansion of all time?
Yes.
Oh, that's a whole.
What expansion came out and just ruined a game? I have one in mind that I think is just real bad, but the game itself is also kind of trash.
Okay, tell me yours while I think.
Literally anything Munchkin after like the first expansion.
Okay. Interesting.
Getting to the point where it's impossible to shuffle decks.
Right. Are you including like the iterations of Munchkin, your Star Munchkin, your Kung Fu Munchkin, whatever? Munchkin Fu?
You are vastly overestimating the amount of Munchkin that I care about.
Okay. So anything for core Munchkin that wasn't like... Okay. Interesting.
Because I did play some of those where like, okay, like there is that idea similar to Smash Up where you just like you grab two kinds of Munchkin and shuffle them together to play an even worse game that is still not funny.
Yeah. Okay. Like I own a few Munchkins, and after a while it was like I only really want to play Munchkin Fu ever because I like Kung Fu and everything else is kind of whatever.
Yeah.
But I can appreciate like when they added like steeds in the Wild West or mutations for the Super Munchkin, right? Like they're fine.
The only Munchkin that I own, and I don't think I bought it. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that my ex-wife left, is Pathfinder Munchkin, which is like not funny because Munchkin, and then extra not funny because I'm not really invested in Pathfinder.
Yeah.
So like I don't know any of the tropes of that game, which I think is like a pretty fatal flaw of Munchkin in general, just like the genre specificity of it.
I was
but you're
I think I purchased Warhammer Munchkin, like the 40k Munchkin, and it was just like, oh yeah, every dumb joke you've seen on a Reddit thread. Okay. So I have my answer.
Vote for worst expansion.
It's an expansion for a game that I love, Terraforming Mars, and I think the worst expansion was Colonies. I think it's called Colonies.
Okay. How did colonies ruin terraforming Mars?
So colonies did this thing. A good expansion to me typically adds just like more variety onto a thing that is already there. So like Smash Bros just adding more types of decks to shuffle in, or okay, well here's new technology cards or improvements for Agricola. A bad expansion, I think, takes away from the core of the game and the focus of the game to have you doing like side quests. And to me, colonies is all side quests. So you've got the main board, that's Mars, and Venus Next is a little bit guilty of this too, but it's not as bad to me as colonies. And then colonies, you literally deal out like 4 or 5 other miscellaneous little moons, and you have to be worrying about building and sending your fleet out to those moons to get the economic benefits, in addition to terraforming Mars itself.
Seems like a lot.
It is a lot, and it's just another little thing that draws your attention away from the main focus of the game, because like the most of the scoring is still just based on the terraforming conditions and the awards and the milestones for the main board. Like the expansions that added just new boards are fine. It's the same thing, just with slight variants. I don't even mind. There's an expansion called Turmoil that it added a side board, but all that really did was add political events at the start of the round. And when you did certain things, you would send a delegate over there to vote for certain policies. And it was like, it wasn't like a decision you had to make to go participate in that. It just sort of happened automatically. And that's like an addition that I don't mind, is when like yes, maybe it triggers something off to the side, but you don't have to, like, it happens along with the other decisions you were making. Like Ankh, which I played a couple weeks ago, the Pharaoh expansion adds priests in the throne room that move around, and like whenever a battle is triggered, they like have different effects based on what room you were dominating in. But the movement of them and the addition of them happens automatically when you're making your armies and moving your armies. So it's not like, oh, I have to focus on the priests now in the temple. It's like, no, it's just another thing that happens at the same time. No big deal. And it's very simple.
Terraforming Mars also just seems like, maybe it's just me and like my sense of immersion.
Yeah.
But like, you have already been tasked with a thing that is impossible.
Yeah.
Like, don't give me a moon too.
Yeah.
Right? Like halfway to Mars, NASA rings you up and they're like, hey, by the way, can you also a moon?
Yeah. Like, it was one thing to have like a couple of little Martian moons around the board that was just like, oh, by the way, that's a square that if you get the right card, you will just throw a free city on there. No big deal. But to have like a separate board that you have to like keep track of, and like, oh yeah, how many fleet do I have to send over there to start, literally harvesting from the extra planets? Like, no, this is dumb.
That's hilarious because Mars's moons are shitty and little.
Yeah, they're tiny.
Not even cool enough to like be round.
Yeah.
All right, and then final question.
Yeah.
What is the best expansion ever put out and why?
This is. Oh, there's so
Only
many.
The best. I don't want second best.
There's so many good ones.
Unassailable. If we catch comments about how it isn't actually the best, I'm blaming you.
Shit. Okay. Oh, why would you do this to me? You should have warned me. Because, okay.
I didn't even put it in the notes.
I know. This is rude. I'm like looking around the room at games I own with expansions. Okay. Right now for me, it's a... Okay, tell you what. Can I do one expansion and one re-implementation?
Yes.
Okay. So the best pure expansion, to my mind, is to Scythe, the Wind Gambit expansion. It adds an airship to everybody's team. that they start with, and they have a randomly generated set of powers that everyone shares every game. And it flies around the map. It doesn't participate in battle. It doesn't get hurt by anybody. It can pick up and move things. But that's it. But what it does is it really... Oh, no, I lied. This isn't the best expansion. No. One just occurred to me. Okay. That was a really good expansion. I love it because it makes the board that much more accessible and you can move things around faster. No, the actual best expansion is Terraforming Mars Prelude. Terraforming Mars, it has this problem where because it's an engine building game, it can take a long time for the game to really get rolling. You spend a lot of turns just kind of doing stuff that doesn't the Mars itself doesn't start terraforming for a while. You spend a lot of time just okay, now I can make enough resources to start playing effective cards and start actually terraforming the planet. Right. Prelude is an expansion that got put out that adds a pre-game phase, the Prelude phase, where you choose 2 out of 4 randomly dealt Prelude cards. And what they do is they just do a one-time, for the most part, one-time start of game kickstart. Where it's hey, we're just going to skip the first 4 turns. You get, this is this.
Really smoothing the game out, the early game, and making it so that you're getting into the meat of it faster?
Yes.
Okay.
It makes it so hey, you have resources to start with. You have some things all ready to go so that you can just get into playing the game. The good part of the game. Now, my favorite re-implementation is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, which takes the whole game of Terraforming Mars and shrinks it down to just to this super fast, card heavy. Both games are card heavy, but it just strips all of the fat out of the entire system and just says, hey, just put down cards, and all of our actions are going to be simultaneous instead of turn-based, so that you can think faster and play faster. And half the decision making is going to be... So what it does is there's 5 possible action phases every round. Everyone has a hand of cards that they select which phase they would like to activate that round, and then everyone reveals which one they want, and then those are the phases that are going to happen. And then you can't play the same phase 2 turns in a row. So it becomes a game of timing and I know I need to build this thing right now, but I can see that Dave needs to also build because he's sitting on a bunch of resources. I bet you if I select the action one instead of the build one, I'll get to do a build anyways, and then also do actions that I wouldn't normally do.
Do you think that if I were to say that we are not sponsored by Terraforming Mars, anyone would believe us at this point?
I mean, they can think what they want. Terraforming Mars is one of the best games designed ever, and it is only recency bias that has caused it to fall down in the rankings on Board Game Geek, because it is awesome. And somehow they've done 2 different re-implementations. There's Ares Expedition, which is just focus on the cards and not the map. And then they did Terraforming Mars, the dice game, which is also super good and feels like Terraforming Mars. It's unbelievable. And this is the only game these people have put out that matters. It's insane.
Hey, thanks for making it all the way through this episode of No Plot, Only Lore. If you're looking for more, you can always find us at noplotonlylore.com and on all the very best podcast platforms. If you like what you heard today, please share, rate, and review the show to feed my never-ending need for attention and validation.